They also lost most of their family in the Holocaust. So what is that like to deal with that guilt and to know that you could have been among those that were
Hmm.
left behind, that didn't come here, and could you have done more? But for the grace of God go I, that kind of guilt. And there were other different, twists and turns that are in the novel that take you from highs and lows and love and tragedy and survival and persistence. So I weave that all together
Hmm.
into the Hands of Gold.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where we strive to help our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. It's always a pleasure to have you here, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us and check out the podcast. Now, in this episode, we'll be talking about the captivating tale of Hands of Gold, which is the title of a book that holds layers of meaning, symbolizing nurturing hands and the themes of resilience and prosperity. It's a story that intertwines romance, tragedy, and historical events like the Holocaust, showcasing the power of love and survival against all odds. Our guest today is Ronnie Robbins. She's a talented author whose debut book, Hands of Gold, has been making waves in the literary world. With a background of journalism, Ronnie has expertly crafted a compelling novel that delves into her own family history, which includes love, tragedy, and the human spirit. Ronnie's expertise in storytelling and her personal connection to the themes explored in Hands of Gold make her the perfect guest for today's episode. Her insight into crafting a remarkable love story intertwined with tales of survival adds depth and richness to our conversation. So let's check out our chat with Ronnie. Enjoy. Hey, Ronnie, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you making the time to do this.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, no,
Excited.
it's great. I know you're a first time author, so we're certainly going to talk about your book, Hand of Gold, and it has a very unique story. A little bit of it's a way of sort of blending a novel with sort of real life family history, if you will, and so and then of course the topic itself is an important one as well because you are sort of delving into sort of the European history, if you will, and the genealogy of your family. And so, perhaps the starting point, you sort of talk. Can you tell us a little bit? Tell us about the book and what made you decide to write it.
So my grandfather left cassette tapes of his life. Remember cassette tapes back in the Stone Ages? I listened to those, and I used that as the basis of my book, sort of the blueprint for a book. I changed all the names and made up the dialogue, and I they had a 60-year love story was what really sparked my interest originally. They died on the date of each other, a year apart, and I thought that was just super romantic. If that can be romantic, dying on the same day. And through their life together, he had was told he was terminal at 27 with TB, tuberculosis.
Mhm.
And he was a test case, a clinical trial patient for streptomycin, which saved his life, I suppose, and let him live for till 87. So
Okay.
told he was terminal, but lived till 87. And they also lost most of their family in the Holocaust. So what is that like to deal with that guilt and to know that you could have been among those that were
Hmm.
left behind, that didn't come here, and could you have done more? But for the grace of God go I, that kind of guilt. And there were other different twists and turns that are in the novel that take you from highs and lows and love and tragedy and survival and persistence. So I weave that all together
Mhm.
into the Hands of Gold.
Let's go back to why do you think your grandfather used cassette tapes to tell a story?
I don't think they had anything else then. They certainly didn't have video like we're using today, or if they did, it was a big clunky machine, and then it wouldn't have been on a screen like you carry around.
Right.
But my aunt gave him cassette tapes and said, that maybe this would be something to do to leave behind for the children. And also
Hmm.
it might um, make him feel a little bit better because his wife was going through some health challenges at the time. And they were living in the nursing home, and she said this might be therapeutic for you to talk about that which you really have never laid out for us before about your life. And so the children keep asking, why don't you tell them? So he did. He took it on as a project, and we're all benefiting from that now too.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And so it sounds like your grandfather, his name was Sam, right? Is that correct? Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well,
Yeah.
that's not his real name, but yes,
Okay.
that's
Yeah. Okay.
he's
Yeah. So
Sam.
so
Sam
it sounds like
Fox in the book.
in the book, yeah. So it certainly sounds like I know you mentioned TB, tuberculosis, and but it sounds like there's a lot of different things that he kind of survived, if you will, like different the adversity. I don't know if you can sort of talk about some of the things he had to overcome, and perhaps maybe how he did it, if you know.
So he originally had to get to America. That was his dream, was to get to America, where there's land of opportunity, they were told. And he had other siblings here. But he didn't have money. He was a farmer, and the family wanted him to continue to be a farmer, and he didn't want to be a farmer. He wanted to go to the United States. So he had to save enough money to go to the United States, and he ran out of money and had to, go back and try again. And so he did, and then made enough money to get to the United States eventually. He didn't come to Ellis Island with immigrants. He walked across borders. He walked a long way, and when he got here and he had, contracted the tuberculosis someplace, and then he was dealing with that. And like I said, his wife had to be the breadwinner. They
Mhm.
had to go at a time when women were not, breadwinners, and take care of her family. They had 5 kids that he was dealing. He had to take care of and support, but he couldn't. He was in and out of rehabilitation, so she did, and so they worked together, and they were on welfare. They had to change. Uh, they had to move a lot to apartments where they
Mhm.
could afford. So there was a lot of moving around. I think that's one of, the struggle, just to survive in different ways. And then, living with themselves, knowing that their family had perished, and they survived that.
Right.
And then he was also involved in a workplace shooting spree, where he talked to the gunman and got him to talk down the gunman. We hear about gunmen nowadays, coming in and
Yep.
shooting
Yep.
different, we just had school shooting here in Georgia. So this was going on then. So he survived that. He saved people. And I won't give every little bit away, but those are just some examples of survival and persistence and determination and just living your life. I mean, you really have no choice but to survive and get through things to hopefully have a better life at some point.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the that drive, right, that is innately, I think, within every single one of us. Whether we tap into it is a whole other story, but that drive to want better for yourself, or be in a different situation, is a matter of going after it. It sounds like that's exactly what he had done. Again, I don't want to sort of give away the story at all, because it sounds like a very compelling one. Um, what made you go with the title Hands of Gold?
Everyone always asks this question.
Mhm.
It's not exactly what meets the eye. So the book cover shows hands, and maybe there's some specks of gold in there, and a hardworking, working man's hands, dirt, weathered fingers. You see the calluses on a person's hands, somebody who's worked hard and used their hands in maybe dirt in farming. But that's misleading. It's not about that exactly. Although, if you think about it, hands and gold are very symbolic of a lot of different things. Hands are nurturing, hands are our livelihood. And we hold hands through life. Gold is money, gold is what they thought the
Mhm.
streets were paved with in
Right.
America and in New York. Gold is the golden years. Going into the golden years together. So there are a lot of different things about those two words that made me think. I wear a hamsa, which is a hand of gold on my neck. It is a mini gold hand, and it's for good luck. So there's lots of, but that's not the reason for the book. So you have to read the book to find out the secret meaning, because I've embedded it in there. The original title was going to be Meet Me in Heaven, but too many people had used that with songs and movies that
Okay.
I needed to change it, because at the beginning of the book, and in the tapes, or maybe just the beginning of the book. I don't remember what's truth and what's not anymore. But she told him, and there's a line in the book. It says, "Meet me in heaven. Tie up loose ends and meet me in heaven." And his line was, "After 60 years of marriage, you do what you're told if you know what's good for you." So but no, I'm not going to give away the people have to read the book to find out what the secret meaning is. It's like English class. You
Understood.
really have to delve into it and decide for yourself.
Understood. Understood. Where did the idea to write the book come from? Like at one point, did you? I mean, again, you've heard these cassettes and you've listened to them. I'm sure there's some level of pride hearing about your family's history, but to turn into a novel, how did that come to be?
So originally, I just wrote a column. I'm a journalist, so I was writing for a newspaper at the time, and I just wrote it up as a column about how people should leave their legacy behind in some kind of way, in a recording, I wasn't thinking about a book form, but you could take notes. You could
Sure.
interview somebody, but I felt like that was important, and so I labeled the column, leaving your legacy behind, as my grandfather left a legacy of himself behind. I don't remember what the column is. It was something of that sort,
Sure.
how important it is to do that. And so that's where I started. And then I started thinking, wow, to die on the same day of each other, after a 60-year marriage, was really, maybe there was something more here. And I started reading, really tapping into all of the details of the that he left behind, and thinking there's like maybe 4 or 5 really good nuggets that I could really explore and make
Right.
into something dramatic, more dramatic than it really was. But there were those incidents. The incident, the shooting really did happen. There was a newspaper article about it. So there was that. There was the surviving tuberculosis. There was being a clinical trial patient for an experimental drug that we still use today. There was the Holocaust, and
Sure.
losing all, 11 family members. He was part of a big family. There was a double marriage. There was some biblical parts of it, because his mother married his father married the sister after his first wife died. So
Right.
his siblings are actually his cousins. And
Wow.
there was a lot of just neat nuggets that we don't necessarily hear about today.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I thought it was worth something.
Yeah, no, okay, no, I hear that for sure. There must have been a great deal of pride, I mean, even for the rest of the family to have this story shared in this creative manner.
For most of them, they've been very supportive. There was one that I was worried about. One of the my aunt, I was she might not have been so happy with how I depicted some people in the novel.
Okay.
I took some liberties for sure, but I've asked family members, even the ones that I thought wouldn't like what I did with their family member, with their parent, and they were like, "It's fiction, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's fiction." So, I can't help that it's loosely based on reality. But a lot of them were. Cousins came out of the woodwork, and now I've got a bigger network of family that
Beautiful.
saw the book and knew my grandfather, even though I might not have known them. It's
Beautiful.
been very, very rewarding. And my
Beautiful.
mom, of course, is super proud, so for the most part, it's been a very lovely experience, and my family's been very supportive.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, congratulations, Ronnie,
Thank
um,
you.
on such a special project, if you will, because this is not just, hey, writing a book. It's again, it's contributing to your family's legacy and your grandfather specifically. So, yeah, I can see certainly there's a lot of pride from that. For if you can let our listeners know where they can get a copy of the book and or maybe even connect with you directly if they want to, how they could go about doing that.
So the book is available everywhere books are sold. So you've got Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Goodreads and Books A Million and Target and Walmart and mostly online and in some books in some libraries and in some bookstores.
Mhm.
All on my website. You can find out more, RonnieRobbins.com. I spell it RonnieRobbins. So www.ronnierobbins.com. You can connect with me and find out all the different ways. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. I'm LinkedIn. I probably have left out a few, but I'm on all the major social media at least once.
Amazing.
I've got like 4 Facebook accounts. So either Ronnie Robbins or Ronnie Kane Robbins. My maiden name was Kayne. So they'll find me.
Amazing.
There's a few other Ronnie Robbins, but I'm the author
Gotcha, gotcha.
or
Well,
the journalist.
we'll make sure we put the appropriate links in the show notes below so our listeners can connect with you. Congratulations on the book. Thank you for sharing a
Thank
little bit about
you.
with our audience, and all the best, Ronnie.
Thank you. You too.
Great. Throughout our conversation, Ronnie, we uncovered the profound impact of family legacy, the importance of resilience in the face of adversity, and the power of storytelling to inspire others to live audaciously. To learn more about Ronnie and her work, as well as to connect directly with her, be sure to check out the show notes for her contact information. Reach out, engage, and continue the conversation with this very, very talented author. Stay tuned for special offers or products related to Ronnie's book, Hands of Gold, which is available for our listeners to explore and enjoy. Again, the show notes is a spot to get all those details. Thank you for tuning into the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode and you loved what Ronnie had to share, please consider following, subscribing, and sharing to help our podcast grow and inspire even more individuals live their best audacious lives. Remember, your story matters, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.